Hi there, it's Jonathan here. This is 3420. We're reading the Book of Deuteronomy in 20 days. Another massively important passage today with rich theological significance for our lives. We're in Deuteronomy chapter 7, and Moses begins by reminding the Israelites that yes, there are people who inhabit the land God has promised them, and those people will need to be dealt with. God is not just going to make them disappear. Interestingly, though, verse 22 says that the people will be dealt with little by little, so that, apparently we're told, the wild animals don't increase too quickly. I think it's a nice touch of realism in the narrative, reminding us that all of these commands and guidelines from the Lord are given for the express purpose of the well-being of his people. Verse 1, it is the Lord who brings the people to their new land and the Lord who drives out the nations from the land. We're given the list of nations, each stronger and larger than Israel, yet Israel will defeat them all under God's mighty hand. Verse 2, Israel are told that they will be used as an instrument of divine judgment on the nations listed, all having earned the wrath of God's punishment at this time. As mentioned before, we must remember that these harsh-sounding pronouncements are made with knowledge regarding the nations which is not completely clear to the reader. God is the judge of all the world. His judgments are always right, and this is one of his judgments. His people are to make no treaty, nor intermarry with the pagan nations. They are to break down altars to foreign gods, smash sacred stones, cut down Asherah poles, and burn idols. The reason given? Because if this is not done, Israel will become ensnared in the worship of foreign gods to their own ruin. Cue hauntingly spooky musical motif played in the background. If you know your Old Testament, you'll know, yep, Yahweh is telling the truth. He's describing exactly how it all plays out. Don't miss the theological significance in verse 6, referring back to Exodus 19, 4-6, and forward to 1 Peter 2, 9 and following, which speaks of the wonderful truth that God chose Israel, rescued them, gave them an identity, and called them to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Yahweh is a faithful, covenant-keeping God who can be trusted to 1,000 generations by those who love him back with obedience. Verse 11, therefore take care to follow. That's a great way to describe a relationship with the Lord. Take care to follow, because following is essentially what is involved in walking with God in the Spirit. Verse 12 and following takes us back to Genesis 12, 1-3, with God's promise to bless Israel so that they could be a blessing to the nations. Now, I get it. This sounds confusing since Yahweh has just said to annihilate the nations. Remember, not all the nations are under his judgment. Yahweh wants to bless his people abundantly. We see this in verses 13-16. Verse 18 brings in the recurring theme of not being afraid. This is a very common command throughout the Bible. Fear not, for God is with you. God has chosen Israel. He has promised to be their God. He has demonstrated his love by redeeming them from Egypt. He has performed miraculous signs and wonders, and he has promised them safe passage into the land given to them. If only they would avoid the snare of idolatry found in the nations all around them. The story continues tomorrow. Enjoy God's word.